Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to this stream. And recently, here in the state of Minnesota, our governor, Tim Walz, boy, is he under attack. Same with the Minnesota government. Because the Small Business Administration, they have completely cut and froze all federal funding to Minnesota. And that is righteously so. We should, in this state alone, with all of the total fraud that has actually happened, this should not be happening. As a Minnesota and federal taxpayer, well, basically an American taxpayer, as I'm trying to say, this is completely outrageous. Like, having all these daycares and learning facilities, but yet they're not having open enrollment. They're not even willing to talk to the press. And at the same time, all the numbers are being, and the addresses are being routed to a specific place, including up to Governor Tim Walz's office. I honestly cannot believe this is happening. There's a whole lot of fraudulent business going on within the state. Pretty much every business and daycare center needs to be investigated by the federal government, which I do applaud Kash Patel and many others for investigating in this state. Because for one, this has been going on for way too long, even before the governorship of Tim Walz. But since an independent journalist, Nick Shirley, has basically uncovered it up, this is just incredible, man. This is like incredible. Now, basically nationwide, I guarantee you globally at this point that everybody is aware currently of the fraud going on in this state. And all those daycare and learning centers that are apparently with no kids, but yet they have this enrollment of kids and blah blah blah. I'm actually stunned, because if I was a parent, I would be flipping out right now. I would be pulling my kids, if I had any, from any daycare or learning facility until a full-blown investigation is done. Many people right now are actually complaining that with a simple question: why isn't there any arrest made yet? And I will basically state that the reason why there is no arrest yet is because basically we have to still follow protocols. We have to still follow probable cause, which we do have a probable cause for the federal law enforcement to step in as well. However, at the same time, we just can't violate the constitutional amendment to where basically everybody, everybody that's in this country, especially the American people, has to go through a process called due process. Basically, where they have to gather up the evidence to actually truthfully make sure that there is an arrestable offense to even be committed on for them to arrest the perpetrators. But in this case, the responsibility is actually on the Walz administration. And I'm pretty sure Peggy Flanagan, that is running for Senate in Minnesota, I'm pretty sure that she herself has a hand in this too. Because we just can't all point it all at Tim Walz. Keith Ellison too. Pretty much the entire cabinet, along with small businesses and daycares and whatever, need to be full-blown investigated. Because with all of the taxes that actually have been wasted for fraud, we, as the Minnesota taxpayers, we should be given a much larger tax refund. Pretty much given the amount of tax that we paid in and currently paying in, we should basically get that all refunded, because we did not consent or agree to this. We didn't consent for this fraud to happen. Corrupt government officials that are happening within the counties that are in the cities. And no one's batting an eye up until now. But then again, criminals will side with criminals. However, I'm coming at this as a pragmatic independent. I'm not Republican. I am not Democrat. Well, socially, I'm a mixture of both. But economically, I'm a Republican. But socially, I am divided between socially liberal and socially conservative. But in this case, we need to figure out the wasteful government spending, which is from giving these fraudulent cases all the taxpayer funding that was for it. Complete waste of money. And I certainly do agree with what Christy Nome and the rest of those people that are doing to actually investigate this, along with Kash Patel and Kelly Loeffler. Oh yeah. Need to be investigated, arrested, etc. And I was actually unaware that Nick Shirley even existed until I saw a live stream on YouTube that I caught a couple of days ago. Now I have to go back to my YouTube watch history here, because I have got to figure out whose YouTube live stream I actually saw. And I started doing some investigating on my end too. Ben Dykes. Ben, D-Y-K-E-S. Dykes. That's the name of the YouTube channel that I first learned this from. So I basically started investigating, really looking into this. But then shortly after I started investigating, boom. It's all over social media. It's all over everywhere else. It's even in news articles. Within the last 24 hours, Fox has actually picked it up. And I just shared this onto my Facebook account not that long ago. Young Americans for Liberty, they've actually posted it on their Facebook page. Newsmax, they've been covering this, definitely. And I do thank Newsmax and all these others for covering it. Valley News Live is also covering it, and a group of GOP legislators are actually calling for Governor Walz to resign. I actually do like the Governor Walz. He should actually resign. Him and Peggy Flanagan together. And then Conservative Twins picked it up. The American Resolve picked it up. But yes, I just still cannot believe that this is actually happening. And I'm going to be minimizing my webcam from here, because we are going to be taking a look at the articles and potential videos that I will be posting along with this live stream. So, yeah. I'm going to make sure that all the settings are working and whatnot. Okay, the browser's right there. Okay, we're going to be watching the Fraud Father Walz blasted by Minnesota mayors over fraud scandal. And since this is going onto my YouTube account, I will be posting the links to every article that's on here. But, yes.
You heard from Governor Walz? Has he invited you to participate in dialogue, to perhaps have a face-to-face visit?
No, unfortunately, Tim Walz hasn't reached out to us at all, and I don't anticipate him doing so, because that just means it's just another level of accountability for Tim Walz, And, there's a little nickname for him going around Minnesota. He's the fraud father.
It's like they got together with Illinois and see who could race to the bottom fastest. Illinois was heading there quicker than us, but it's like Minnesota said, hold our beer and watch what we can do. That's the feeling I get out of this. Like it's a race to the bottom.
But I think that number is going to grow as the feds and the special task force President Trump sent to Minnesota is going to start uncovering the fraud that has been going on in the state for years. There's so much waste in the state that there's nothing left for the people that matter, which is us.
And that is actually true. Of course, we get an ad. Stop doing this. Come on.
Where's it?
Okay. Now we're going to be reading this. Politicians took to social media Saturday to criticize Minnesota Governor Tim Walz after a viral video raised questions about a Minneapolis daycare center that allegedly received millions of dollars in state funding despite appearing largely inactive. Responding to an X post highlighting allegations of Somali Medicaid fraud and voter fraud in the state, Vice President J.D. Vance described the situation as a microcosm of the immigration fraud in our system. Politicians like it because they get power. Welfare cheats like it because they get rich, Vance wrote. But it's a zero-sum game, and they're stealing both money and political power from Minnesotans. I absolutely wholeheartedly agree on that. And basically with all that funding in place, I just still cannot believe that this is actually happening. As a Minnesota resident, this is not going to be good at all come the 2026 November election. However, though, the entire state basically is red. However, the only parts that make it red are the counties that live in that's basically in the cities. Other else in the state is nothing but red. Even St. Louis County's red, but I don't know why they show it as blue. But I don't live in St. Louis County anymore. God bless my home area. But, yes. Governor Walz does need to be held accountable. Folks need to be arrested and prosecuted. And basically the 42-minute video posted to X or Twitter and YouTube on Friday by independent reporter Nick Shirley shows him and another man visiting several child care facilities in the Blue State, including a location on Nicollet Avenue in Minneapolis. The footage shows no visible activity at the site, which displays a misspelled sign that says Quality Leering Center, even though the center is reportedly supposed to account for 99 children and roughly $4 million in state funds. Yeah, Quality Leering Center. Yeah, that's also a red flag right there. They didn't get learning spelled correctly. Okay, let's go into X. Okay. We're only going to be watching a little part of it so that way y'all can see.
Hello, we'd like to ask where the money goes. What do you guys think about the fraud that's taking place here in Minnesota?
I don't think anybody is enabling fraud to happen.
Governor Walz accountable for this.
What was this money spent on? 1.26 million. What was that money spent on? There aren't any kids.
Answer the question. Are there children? There's no children inside the building. eventually the largest fraud scandal in U.S. history is taking place in Minnesota, as literally billions of dollars have been funneled through Somali-ran fraudulent businesses. So much fraud it can actually almost replace the entire GDP of Somalia. These fraudsters have worked hand in hand with the Minnesota government as they enabled billions of dollars to be given to fraudulent businesses underneath welfare purposes. Some of this money eventually landed in the hands of terrorist groups in Somalia like the Al-Shabaab, and others enriched themselves all at the U.S. taxpayers' expense. And in this video we'll break...
Yeah, basically that is very, very wrong. We should not be doing that. We should not be funding any of this. It is nonsense. If this does not outrage you, even in the slightest, then you're possibly the problem. Because pretty much this itself is... It's maddening. It's all of our taxpayer dollars is going to be funding that and going towards fraud? No way. We should not be funding fraud. Basically, it's in a form of money laundering. That is what it basically is money laundering. The point where you use a business as a facade to generate income. I've played enough Grand Theft Auto and a lot of video games. I've seen a lot of movies and TV shows. This is money laundering. This is very against the law. And we go even further in this article. And basically, yeah. Because it's like, what are they doing? You know, I may have been alienated by the GOP and alienated by the Democrats. However, come election time, truthfully, I might end up voting GOP. Unless there are better Democrats out there that are actually against what's currently going on. And those Democrats, if they actually mean it, they would actually earn my vote. However, at the same time, we need to be on guard with this. Yeah, we truthfully have to be on guard. And we're going to go into another article. Critics demand accountability from Walls amid daycare controversy and fraud allegations. ABC 3340 News. Of course, it's the same article type. And it's the same tweet. And you see that right there? It says learning, not learning. And if you were to call that number, it's going to come back as voicemail full. That is basically what it's going to come back to. Because this guy, he's already called it like several times. Then there's been other people pretty much in the comment section that have actually called it. And they've also got a full voicemail where you can't even leave a message and nobody returns the phone calls. And the FBI is investigating the Minnesota fraud scheme. We should not let the state of Minnesota investigate this, because that itself would be a conflict of interest, and they would actually be in perjury committing perjury to the point where basically it would be a whole corrupt investigation. This investigation from the feds is absolutely needed and necessary. And Kash Patel said on Sunday, in the latest instance of the Trump administration's fraud investigations that have largely targeted the state's Somali immigrants. Federal officials in recent weeks have portrayed Minnesota's Somali community as a hotspot for fraud involving millions of federal dollars intended for social services. Immigrant rights advocates have accused the administration of using the fraud investigations as an excuse to target Somali Americans more broadly. The FBI declined to provide further details about Patel's comment. Governor Walz's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment. With this, we basically we pretty much, for all those that have actually committed fraud like this, and in a way form of larceny and money laundering and whatnot, denaturalize and deport anybody that is guilty. And if it's American citizens that are participating in this, lock them up. Lock them up and throw away the key. Because we are looking at double digits for this type of crime. It's more than 10 years in prison. Especially for multiple counts if there is any. Just like the American citizens. A couple of them are currently in prison right now for the whole feeding our hope or feeding our America, something along that organization name, where it invests like $230 million in fraud because the money did not go to them. It went right to the pockets instead of helping those that actually need it. And the Trump official freezes millions in SBA, Small Business Administration, aid in Minnesota, slams Walz's policies as breeding endemic fraud. We're going to be watching a part of this.
Mayors say they are deeply concerned and frustrated by the fraud and unchecked spending from state officials. They say the state's $18 billion surplus has disappeared, and now Minnesota projects $3 billion in deficits in 2028. Their letter goes on to say, as mayors, we see firsthand how these decisions ripple outward. Our state owes it to our citizens to practice responsible fiscal management and to stop taxing our families, seniors, and businesses out of Minnesota. We urge the legislature to course correct and to remember that every dollar you manage belongs not to the capital, but to the people of Minnesota.
Joining us now is the Brewer Group.
Okay, that is definitely a very strong point right there. It belongs to the people of Minnesota. It does not belong to the pockets of the criminals. We basically need to keep on this, specifically as well, so that way we pretty much can have a stable economy, having none of it go for fraud. Even John Fetterman, a Democrat, is outraged by this. There's quite a few Democrats that are outraged by this. Not all Democrats are bad, and not all Republicans are bad. However, there are the bad apples in the group. There's the badly corrupt politicians that need to go. And it still is 2025 right now. But after the 31st of December, it will be 2026. Which means it's election time and people will be voted out and voted in. Hopefully, the corrupt politicians like this can be replaced. And within the next 30 days or so, I will be completely stunned if Governor Tim Walz does not resign. If him and Peggy do not resign, I will be stunned. However, if they do resign, I'm going to be more than stunned. I'm actually going to be shocked. Because this basically itself, all this fraud, it's not just for fraud and hurting fellow Americans. It's also in part of national security too. Because look at the country of Somalia. The people over there are actually rooting and thanking Ilhan Omar and the rest of the Minnesota government for taking in part of this. Now, I'm with the Democrats that are actually thankful that this happened, but I'm not with the Democrats that are opposing it. I am pretty much everybody on the right and certain percentage of the people on the left. They are definitely thankful that this happened because nobody wants wasteful government spending. And this certainly is not white supremacy, as Governor Tim Walz has called it. But yeah, kind of like to hear what y'all have to think on this. Since this will be going to my YouTube channel, I'm going to be posting it in 2 of my channels. But yes, let me know what you think when you watch this video when it comes out. But yes. Peace.